To picture something for a second. You're driving a car, let's say it's late at night, somewhere you've never been before.
Okay.
You are relying entirely on the GPS. And then, suddenly, the screen goes blank. No map, no road names, just a gray void. What happens to your body in that exact second?
Oh, immediate stress response. My heart rate spikes.
Right.
Yeah, you grip the wheel tighter. Your eyes are, wide, scanning for threats, for anything familiar.
Panic. Pure biological panic. Now imagine that isn't your GPS, but your brain's internal map of reality. And the blank screen isn't a missing road, it's a gap in your fundamental understanding of the world. Why am I here? What happens after I die? What is that noise in the dark?
That's a terrifying place to be. It's a kind of existential vertigo.
It is. And the massive stack of documents we're diving into today argues that this feeling, this specific panic of the unknown, is the root cause of religion.
But not in the way most people think about it.
Not at all. We aren't talking about faith or spirituality today, not in the classical sense. We are talking about hardware. We're talking about neurophysiology.
It's a completely different lens. We're looking at this really dense collection of texts that they blend neuroscience, systems architecture, linguistics, and ancient Turkic philosophy into one unified theory.
And the central premise is startling.
It's that religion is a software patch.
A patch, like a hot fix for, I don't know, Windows 95.
Ideally, yes, a patch to fix a critical bug. But often, according to these texts, it's more like a virus or a dependency loop that you can't escape.
And it gets even more specific. The source material argues that what we call mythology, specifically looking at the ancient structure of the yurt and the figure of Tengrieta, aren't myths at all.
They're engineering schematics.
Blueprints designed to stop your brain from overheating, from crashing when it hits one of those blank spots on the map.
It's a bold claim, to say the least. And it leads us into some really strange and fascinating territory.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about things like action result acceptors, lipid noise, and get this, why the English language, the very language we are speaking right now, might be a shadow code designed to drain your cognitive battery.
It's a lot to unpack. We are, in effect, decoding a manual for human consciousness that the source claims has been ignored or maybe misinterpreted for centuries.
So let's start with the biology, because if we don't understand the bug, we can't really understand the patch.
Right, the root problem.
The source introduces this term, the action result acceptor, or ARD. It sounds like something out of a computer science textbook, not a theology book.
It does, but it's actually physiological. The concept is built on the work of Pyotr Anokhin, a Soviet biologist. The source uses this to explain how the brain navigates the world.
So how does it work?
Think of your brain not as a hard drive that just stores facts, but as a relentless prediction engine.
So it's constantly guessing what happens next.
Constantly. Millisecond by millisecond. If I reach for this cup of coffee, my brain predicts the weight, the temperature, the friction required to lift it.
And when the prediction is right?
You get a little hit of satisfaction, homeostasis, the system is stable, the result matches the action, everything's fine.
But what if it doesn't match?
Ah.
What if I lift the cup and it's as heavy as lead, or my hand passes right through it like a ghost?
That is the white spot.
That white spot.
That is the gap. The source calls it a rupture in the semantic space. When your brain cannot predict the result, when it has no model for what's happening, it creates a massive biochemical entropy.
So it's not just confusion, it's pain.
It is physically painful for the neural network to have a void. The ARD screams error, result does not match expectation, and floods the system with stress hormones. It's a biological imperative to fill that void.
And this is where the text gets really critical of modern life. It says we are living in a Swiss cheese reality.
I love that phrase. It argues we are completely fragmented. You learn biology in one classroom, history in another, physics in a third.
You have your work persona, your home persona, your online persona.
They're all isolated dots.
Yeah.
And the brain hates isolated dots. It needs a continuous line, a narrative that connects everything.
And when those dots don't connect,
you generate what the source calls lipid noise.
lipid noise. That sounds gross. Like clogged arteries for the mind.
It's meant to. It implies clogging, sludge in the signal. It's the static of unresolved contradictions, the low-grade stress of a life that doesn't make sense as a whole.
So enter religion.
Exactly.
In this model, Religion isn't about finding God because you love him or because you seek enlightenment.
Yeah.
It's about stopping the noise. It's a desperate act of cognitive survival.
Correct. The source describes it as a top-down processing override. The brain is screaming, I don't know why the sun moves, I can't predict it, I don't know what happens when I die. It's panicking.
So the patch is installed.
A high-level neural superstructure is installed that says, it's okay, Apollo pulls the sun in a chariot.
And the brain just goes, oh, okay, chariot, got it. The panic stops.
The panic stops. The ARD is satisfied. It has an answer, any answer. Blood pressure drops. The stress hormones wash out. The source even describes a biological mechanism where the brain densifies this explanation over time.
What do they mean by densifies?
It reinforces the neural pathway.
Whoa.
Through ritual, through repetition, through social agreement. That story, that chariot, becomes more and more solid until it feels just as real as the chair you're sitting on.
It restores the map. The white spot is gone.
The white spot is colored in.
But here is the catch, and this is where the source gets pretty cynical or maybe just realistic. It distinguishes between a healthy patch and a malicious one.
The manipulative one.
Right, they call it the broken cell theory.
And this is a really critical distinction for everything that follows. The text argues that manipulative dogmas don't just offer answers. They specifically target people who are already suffering, people who are full of what it calls biological trash.
Let's clarify that term. Biological trash is the source's term for, what, the physiological damage from stress and unhappiness.
Yes. The accumulation of entropy in the body, damaged cells, hormonal imbalances, chronic inflammation. If you are miserable, your prediction machine is already broken. You can't navigate reality effectively because your internal sensors are full of static.
So you're vulnerable.
You're desperate for a patch. And a manipulative religion in this model steps in and says, don't try to fix your sensors. Don't try to restore your homeostasis. Don't try to understand the actual math of the universe.
It says, just take this pre-packaged answer, believe this, and the pain will stop.
It anesthetizes you.
It's a painkiller.
It's what the source calls a glucocorticoid jam. It's a clever phrase. It floods your system with a calming agent, the dogma, but it simultaneously blocks you from actually solving the root problem.
So you become dependent on the patch.
Totally dependent. You stop trying to map reality for yourself. You're running on safe mode forever because you've been taught to fear the error messages.
That is a haunting image, living your entire life in safe mode.
It is. And the source argues that this safe mode has an architecture. It has a physical metaphor. They call it the cave.
Okay, so let's pivot to the solution then. If the cave, or this kind of manipulative dogma, is the bad operating system, the one that hides data and drugs you into submission, what's the upgrade?
The upgrade, they argue, has been sitting in plain sight on the steppes of Central Asia for millennia.
The yurt.
The yurt. And we have to be really careful here because when most people hear yurt, they think glamping. They think of a cool Airbnb or a tent at a music festival.
Or, they think of Genghis Khan and, quote, primitive tents. A very simplistic view.
Exactly. The source wants to shatter that image completely. It demands we look at the yurt not as a primitive dwelling, but as a piece of high-tech circuitry. An advanced piece of engineering.
This is what they call the religion of resonance.
Right. And the central comparison they make is cave versus yurt. Let's break that down.
The cave is static. It's a bunker. It's built on defense.
The cave is the architecture of fear. If you live in a cave, you are fundamentally protecting yourself from the environment. You have thick, immovable walls. You hide your resources deep in the back. The air is stale. It's a closed system.
It assumes the world is hostile, and you must hide from it.
Yes. Its stability comes from mass and isolation.
And the yurt.
The yurt is an open system. Its stability comes from connection and flexibility. It is designed to live in the flow of the elements, not hide from them.
And to really understand this, the source says we have to tear the yurt apart piece by piece and look at it through the lens of modern IT. They literally map the wood and felt to server architecture.
It's a wild analogy, but it's surprisingly consistent.
So let's start with the walls. The carriage.
The carriage. If you've never seen a yurt frame, these are the crisscrossed wooden lattices that form the circular wall. They look a bit like a baby gate or one of those expanding pantograph toys.
And they expand and contract. That's the key.
That is absolutely key. In the source's model, the carriage is a distributed data mesh.
Okay, break that down.
Think about a stone wall. The wall of a cave or a castle. If I hit that stone wall with a sledgehammer in one spot,
The force is concentrated on that one brick. It shatters.
The whole structure can be compromised by a single point of failure, but the lattice of the carriage,
If I hit the lattice.
the wood bends. The shock wave doesn't stay in one place. It travels through every single diamond in the mesh. It distributes the load across the entire structure.
All connected to all.
That's the phrase they use. The system is resilient because it's networked. It doesn't resist pressure with brute force. It dissipates it through connection.
So in a social or governmental model, this means no silos.
No silos, no need-to-know basis. Information isn't locked in one department's filing cabinet. Every node is connected to every other node. If one part of the network takes a hit, say, an economic crisis in one sector, the stress is instantly shared and absorbed by the whole system, preventing a catastrophic collapse.
Okay, so that's the wall. Moving up the structure, we have the UEQ, the poles that form the roof.
Right, these are the long, straight poles that connect the top of the carriage wall to the central ring in the ceiling.
And the source calls these the vectors of logic.
It's a great name for them. They take the distributed stability of the walls and they channel it, they focus it upwards and inwards. The source describes this as 90-degree synchronization.
Which means what exactly in this metaphor?
It's a geometric metaphor for perfect alignment. The pole connects the Earth, which represents the people, the base, the raw data from the mesh, directly to the spy, which is the central mission, the strategic vision.
It's a direct channel for the signal.
Perfectly direct. There's no bureaucracy in a pole. It's a straight line. The signal, the intent, travels fast and without distortion.
And all of these poles, these vectors, converge on one single point.
The shanty rack.
The crown. That iconic wooden wheel in the ceiling.
The shanty rack is the CPU. It's the central API gateway. It's the single point of integration. But functionally, it's doing something incredible from an engineering standpoint.
It's holding the whole thing together under tension.
Exactly. It's balancing two powerful opposing forces. The UEQ poles are pushing up and trying to explode outward from the pressure of the roof. The circular rim of the shanty rack is holding them in, pulling them together.
It holds the tension.
It resolves the tension into a state of dynamic stability. This is why the source calls it the ultimate action result acceptor. It is the one point that constantly validates the structural integrity of the entire system.
And crucially, it's also a window.
It's the connection to the outside. It's the chimney for the hearth fire and the window to the stars.
And if the shanty rack is covered,
the fire dies. The connection is lost. In this model, the sky represents absolute truth or the overarching strategic vision. If you block the shanty rack, you cut off the system from its guiding principle.
The source is really explicit about this. It says corruption is the closing of the shanty rack.
Yes. When a government or a corporation starts hiding data, creating secret committees, classifying documents unnecessarily, they are effectively throwing a felt blanket over the chimney.
And the smoke fills the room.
Everyone chokes on the lipid noise of lies and hidden information. The system suffocates.
I want to touch on the physics of the yurt's shape, too, because this part was really unexpected. They bring in Nikola Tesla.
The Tesla valve. Yeah, I didn't see that coming in a test about ancient nomads either.
It's such a brilliant comparison, though. Can you explain what a Tesla valve is?
It's a fascinating device. It's a fluid channel, like a pipe, that is designed to let liquid or gas flow easily in one direction, but it blocks the flow in the other direction.
But it has no moving parts,
Yeah.
no gates or flaps.
None. It works purely based on its internal geometry. The shape of the channel itself creates turbulence that stops the reverse flow.
And the yurt does this with wind.
Think about a square house in a blizzard. The wind hits the flat wall. Wham! It's a direct confrontation. The wall has to fight back with sheer strength.
It creates turbulence, noise, shaking. It's a conflict.
The source uses the Turkic phrase "jelj karsi," which means against the wind. That's the cave mentality, fighting the elements.
But the yurt is round.
It has no flat surfaces for the wind to push against. When the wind hits the yurt, it doesn't fight. The wind adheres to the curve, it hugs the structure, and it flows around it.
So the yurt doesn't fight the wind. It tricks the wind into stabilizing it.
It literally forces the chaos of the wind into a smooth, laminar flow around itself. This creates a zone of what the source calls laminar peace inside.
While the storm is raging at 80 miles per hour outside, the candle inside doesn't even flicker.
That is the nomad's code. You don't hide from chaos in a cave. You stand in the center of it, but your geometry, your internal structure, your principles makes you immune to the turbulence. You become aerodynamic to reality.
I love that concept, aerodynamic to reality. So this isn't just a history lesson about ancient tense. The source pivots hard and says, We should run a modern government like a yurt.
Yes. The proposal is to literally replace modern bureaucracy, which is cave thinking, all those silos, hidden documents, the bunker mentality, with what they call biological resonance.
And they call a blueprint for this the Shanny-Rack interface.
They do, and they actually lay out an IT stack for it. This is where it gets really specific. They call it the Sigma Zeta SIGO stack.
Sounds like sci-fi.
It sounds like that, but it's mapped to very real, very modern technologies.
Okay, let's try to break that down. For the carriage, the distributed walls, they suggest a distributed data mesh.
Right. And they mention specific technologies like Go routines and Spanner. For the non-techies in the audience, Spanner is a database system that was developed by Google.
And what's special about it?
It's globally distributed, it exists on servers all over the world, but it acts and behaves like one single consistent database. The idea is that state data isn't locked in a filing cabinet in one ministry's basement.
It's a living mesh.
It's everywhere and nowhere at once. If a server center in one city gets knocked out, the network doesn't even notice. It instantly redistributes the load.
Just like the wooden lattice.
Precisely. It's about 100% availability and resilience. In a cave bureaucracy, if the one person with the key to the filing cabinet is sick, the whole process grinds to a halt.
A single point of failure.
In a yurt bureaucracy, the data is always accessible, always live, always in the mesh.
Then for the UEQ, the polls, they talk about something called gRPC.
Yeah, gRPC is a high-performance framework for connecting services, also originally developed by Google. They call these connections the logic vectors.
So it's about speed.
It's about insane speed and efficiency. The connection between a citizen's need on the ground and the state's actions at the center should be as fast and direct as a nerve impulse. No bureaucratic lag.
And that all points to the Shanny-Rack, the Truth API.
The central dashboard. The single source of truth. But it's not just for looking at charts and graphs. Its primary function is to validate truth.
And the rule is simple.
If data is hidden, the Shanny-Rack is closed. The system cannot function without total transparency at the core. The moment information is suppressed, the system begins to suffocate.
It's a radical proposal for governance. And they even provide a kind of instruction manual,
Right.
a protocol of assembly, 7 steps to turn a corrupt, cave-like organization into a functional yurt.
Yeah, and the first step is really telling.
Step 1, lipid cleanup.
Lipid cleanup, which is
Removing hidden motives. Removing lies. They consistently refer to lies and hidden agendas as lipids or fats, things that clog the system, slow down the signals, and cause inflammation.
you can't build a resonant network if the nodes are lying to each other. Resonance requires sincerity. If I tell you the wall is strong, but I know it's actually rotten, the entire structure is compromised.
And then you move through the steps, like raising the walls, putting the poles in, and step 4 is raising the Shanny-Rack.
Activating the central vision. Establishing that single source of truth.
And the final step, step 7, is lighting the hearth.
Activating the energy of the system. The shared purpose. The reason the yurt exists in the first place.
They even offer a mathematical formula for state stability, which is just audacious.
It is. It's defined as the sum of connections. So the strength of your carriage mesh divided by the entropy of wind.
Entropy of wind is their variable for all external and internal pressure, corruption, crisis, foreign interference, lies.
Exactly. So the more honest connections you have, the more wind you can handle. A cave crumbles under pressure. A yurt just tightens its belt and holds.
Okay, we have to pivot now. This is a huge shift. We've built the hardware, the yurt, but any computer, no matter how well built, needs an operating system.
The software.
And the source argues very provocatively that the OS most of us are running, especially in the West, is full of bugs.
Bugs is putting it lightly. The source argues that the English language is a form of shadow code.
This is the silent letter conspiracy. I have to admit, when I first read this section, I thought, okay, this is where they lose me. Why does it matter if the word night has a silent K? It's just history, right? It's just a fossil from Old German.
That's the standard linguistic view, of course. Language evolves, spelling gets locked in, and it lags behind pronunciation. But this source isn't interested in history. It takes a neurocomputational view.
Okay.
It asks a simple, brutal question. What is the energy cost of that discrepancy?
The energy cost.
Your brain is an efficiency machine. It's always trying to save energy. It wants A to equal A. When you, as a child, first learn to read and you look at the word night, your visual cortex sees a K. It sends a signal. Prepare to pronounce the K sound.
But then another part of your brain has to step in.
Your auditory memory, your learned experience, steps in and sends a countersignal. No, stop, suppress the K. It's silent in this context.
So there is a conflict, a tiny micro conflict in the brain.
A micro-conflict that happens thousands upon thousands of times a day when reading English. The source makes the incredible claim that this wastes up to 30 or 40% of the brain's processing power in the default mode network.
That's a huge number.
It means you are constantly running a background process, a debugging script, just to reconcile the difference between what your eyes see and what your ears hear.
And this is what it calls lipid noise again.
Exactly. It's cognitive sludge. It creates a fundamental dissociation. You are trained from childhood that what you see is not what is real. The symbol on the page is a kind of lie.
And the source argues this has massive social consequences, that it makes English speakers more susceptible to secret governance.
Because we're used to hidden rules.
That's the theory. We're subconsciously trained to accept that the surface of things is misleading, and that the real meaning is hidden, available only to the initiated, to the ones who know the secret rules.
If you pronounce the K in night, you immediately brand yourself as an outsider.
Uneducated. You didn't get the memo.
It's a class filter built right into the alphabet. It separates those who know the hidden code from those who don't.
So what's the alternative they propose? They call it light code.
Or direct signal. They point to languages like Turkic, or more specifically to the ancient Turkic runes.
Where what you see is what you say.
A perfect one-to-one resonance. No silent letters. No double vowels that change their sound based on arcane context. The source calls this the Doctrine of Direct Signal.
And they claim this has a physiological effect.
A profound one. The theory is that when you read a phonetically pure text, it's not just an intellectual exercise of decoding symbols. The sound you make with your mouth perfectly matches the symbol you see with your eyes.
Every symbol vibrates the body.
They mean this literally. It's about vagus nerve stimulation. The argument is that a pure language creates a resonant frequency that tunes the entire nervous system from the ganglia in your neck all the way down. Reading becomes a form of physical calibration.
Whereas reading English is a form of cognitive dissonance.
It's a low-level stressor.
This philosophy explains their very specific take on sacred texts. They're very, very hard on the English translation of the Bible.
They see it as a primary vehicle for what they call information inflation. It's a fascinating argument.
So why did the Bible spread so effectively in English, according to this source?
Not because it was a good translation, but precisely because it was a high-noise translation. English, with all its phonetic dissociation, acts as a buffer. It's an insulator.
An insulator from what?
From the raw, terrifying electricity of the original text's intent. The source argues that the original Hebrew or Aramaic had a direct resonant power.
So the English translation lets you get the story.
You get the narrative, the morals, the history, but you don't get the code. The lipid shield of the English language prevents the text from mass activating the readers on a deeper neurophysiological level. It makes it safe for mass distribution.
Wow. Okay, so in contrast to that, you have the Torah.
The Torah, which they describe not as a book, but as a black box, a self-organizing matrix.
And its primary defense mechanism is its writing system.
It's written almost entirely without vowels. It is a consonant code. This means you literally cannot read it unless you already know the text. You have to supply the vowels, which they equate with the breath or the soul yourself.
So it's encrypted. You can't just passively consume it.
You have to actively participate in its decryption. It's an interactive system. The source hugely admires this engineering because it prevents external idea injection.
Oh, so
You can't just insert a new foreign idea into the Torah because the underlying mathematics of it would break. The gematria, the system where every letter has a numerical value, acts as a checksum. The whole thing is cross-referenced like a block of code.
But they don't say the Torah is the perfect solution either, do they?
No, not at all. They argue it fell into the opposite trap. It became a closed system. It became elitist. If you need a lifetime of intensive study just to crack the code, it's not a yurt.
It's a bunker for scholars.
Exactly. It's another kind of cave, just a very sophisticated one. The light is locked inside.
So what they're advocating for is kind of synthesis.
The Goldilocks zone. They want the mathematical precision and integrity of the Torah, but the open source accessibility of the yurt.
And the phonetic purity of the Turkic runes.
That's the trifecta. A transparent, resonant, mathematical spirituality that anyone can access, but no one can corrupt.
This brings us to the most granular level of the analysis, the actual shapes of the letters themselves. The source gets into what it calls the physics of symbols.
Yeah, this part is really wild. It claims there was a specific neurolinguistic secret passed down from ancient peoples, they mention Aryans and Huns, to the Turkic tribes.
And this secret is about geometry, specifically the difference between circles and breaks.
A very simple but profound distinction.
Let's start with the problem. Circles are bad.
In this specific context of information processing, yes. The source argues that a circle is the graphical representation of a loop.
A loop in the brain.
A cognitive loop. Repetitive thinking. Obsessive thoughts. Addiction to dopamine cycles. Traps. If the symbols you use to think and write are full of closed circles, your brain gets trained to stay in the loop.
You spin your wheels.
It reminds me of the loading icon on a computer screen, that spinning circle.
That's a perfect analogy.
It is the universal symbol of waiting, of being stuck, of inaction. The process is running, but it's not going anywhere.
So what's the alternative? How do you break the loop?
With a break.
A literal break in the circle.
Exactly. The source points out that ancient runic alphabets, like the Turkic Orkhon script, almost entirely avoided closed circles. They used angles, sharp lines, open curves, breaks.
You see it in the runes for T or S. They look like arrows or lightning bolts or jagged peaks.
And the function of that break, according to the source, is to act as a deflector or a router for your neural signal.
So the shape of the letter is literally directing traffic in your brain.
That is the hypothesis. When the neural signal traveling along the path of the symbol hits that sharp angle or that open end, it is forced to exit the loop. It can't just go round and round.
It gets vectored towards a specific action.
The symbol becomes an instruction. And the source even gets into the math of it. They claim the degree of the break. The angle determines the force and direction of the cognitive flow.
So acute angles, like less than 90 degrees.
Acceleration, action, a sharp turn. It wakes the brain up. It creates urgency. The signal is focused and intensified. It says, go here, now.
And obtuse angles, wider ones.
Slow flow, generalization, a gentle redirection, calming the signal, allowing for broader thought.
This makes me look at modern fonts completely differently.
Yeah.
Everything now is so round, so smooth. We're told it's user-friendly.
It's smoothed out. The source argues this is a profound modern distortion. In our quest for aesthetic simplicity and friendliness, we have smoothed out the breaks. We have closed the loops. Think of the letter O or P or B in a standard font like Helvetica.
Perfect circles, closed systems.
And the result, they claim, is that we have trapped modern human consciousness in static blocks and automatic loops. We scroll endlessly. We repeat the same cognitive patterns. We don't act.
We are stuck in the loading icon.
And the ancient secret of the Huns was to use an alphabet that was inherently anti-loop. They wrote in vectors. Their writing system was a tool for breaking cognitive stagnation.
Okay, so let's try to tie this all together. We have the yurt structure for society. We have a clean, resonant language. We have these sharp, action-oriented symbols for writing. How do we live this?
The source provides a framework for that, too, an ethical algorithm. It's presented as the code of Turkic resonance.
And they frame it as a code for the modern digital nomad.
It's basically the new 10 Commandments, but for a networked, transparent society. It's a series of principles for maintaining the integrity of the yurt.
Let's run through them. First is sigma, the sum.
This one goes right back to the beginning of our conversation. Never store knowledge as isolated dots.
The Swiss cheese reality problem.
Exactly. This principle commands you to connect everything to the tree of truth. If you learn something new, say a fact about quantum physics, you are ethically obligated to find a way to connect it to your understanding of art or economics or your own psychology.
Integrate.
Constant integration. If you can't connect a piece of information to the rest of your knowledge network, it's not knowledge. It's just noise. It's lipid. You have to weave it into the carriage wall of your mind or discard it.
Second is zeta, sincerity.
This one is presented not as a moral virtue, but as a law of physics. Sincerity is energy efficiency.
I love that framing. Explain that.
Why is lying inefficient? Because it requires you to maintain a shadow model of reality in your brain. You have to hold the truth in one part of your memory and the lie in another. And you have to constantly spend energy making sure they don't cross-contaminate.
You're running two operating systems at once.
It's a massive waste of cognitive resources. It generates enormous lipid noise. Being sincere, being transparent, frees up your CPU for more important tasks.
That's a great way to look at honesty. It's not just moral, it's practical. It's optimization.
It creates a frictionless, high-resonance system between people.
Okay, third is psi, the 100-year arc.
This is the principle of strategic vision. It's very simple. Decisions are only legitimate if they account for the grandson's smile.
4 generations ahead.
Yes. It forces you out of short-term thinking. You don't optimize for this quarter's earnings report or the next election cycle. You optimize for the well-being of a child who has not yet been born.
That completely changes how you build the yurt.
You use better wood, you build it stronger, you choose a better spot by the river. It's the ultimate counter to short-term greed.
And finally, the fourth one is alpha, oxytocin armor.
The strength of the system is the safety of the weakest node.
Sounds familiar.
It's a network principle. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's the neurochemistry of trust. This principle states that a yurt, a community, a nation is only as strong as its commitment to protecting its most vulnerable member.
Because if the weakest node feels unsafe, it can't trust the network.
And if it can't trust the network, it won't resonate. It will hoard its resources. It will lie. It will become a source of lipid noise that degrades the integrity of the entire mesh.
So compassion isn't just a feeling. It's a structural requirement for a resilient network.
It's the armor that protects the system from internal decay.
It's a complete package.
Yeah.
It starts with biology, moves to architecture, then to linguistics, and ends with this ethical code.
It is a fascinating and deeply strange attempt to synthesize a kind of theory of everything for the information age, but by using what it claims is the oldest, most resonant wisdom available.
So to try and summarize this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the final picture? We've gone from the brain's biological need for meaning, its hatred of gaps on the map, all the way to the engineering of the yurt.
We've talked about cleaning our language of these silent letters, these hidden lies, and using the very shape of symbols to break out of cognitive loops.
For me, the big takeaway is this core idea of a shift from cave thinking to step thinking.
That's the central axis of the whole philosophy.
Moving from fear and walls and hidden data
To flow and open networks and absolute transparency. The cave represents our current state in so many ways. Our fear of the unknown, our tendency to hoard data in silos, hiding behind the silent letters of bureaucracy and legal jargon.
and the step of the yurt represents a radical alternative. You are completely exposed to the wind, to reality, but you are designed to handle it. You aren't afraid of the storm because you're aerodynamic.
And you are mobile. This is key. A cave is stuck in one place, defending one patch of ground. A yurt can be taken down in an hour and moved to where the grass is greener.
It can move to where the truth is.
That is the ultimate freedom of the digital nomad, in their view. The ability to follow the truth unburdened by the dead weight of a static, cave-like structure.
Here's a final provocative thought to leave you with, then. If our current languages, and not just English, but any language with this kind of phonetic noise, if our modern rounded fonts are designed, whether accidentally or not, to keep our brains in a loop,
What would happen if we started consciously writing and thinking in vectors?
what if we redesigned our emails, our legal contracts, our code, our organizational charts to have explicit breaks instead of loops, to be action-oriented at the most fundamental symbolic level?
The source suggests we are sitting on a technological revolution of consciousness. But it doesn't require a new silicon chip or a brain implant.
It requires us to become architects of resonance.
We have to build the yurt inside our own heads first, before we can build it in the world.
A lot to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this deeper on your own time. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Until next time.